And yes, it's the Matt Murphy Show, minus Matt Murphy. But you know the drill by now. This has been Musical Chairs Week at Super Talk 99.7. And it just bees like that. But I am your friendly neighborhood witness protection guest whack-a-mole, Des Dickerson. But it's good to be here. It's been fun because I was actually talking to Chris, and it's been, there was a stretch where I wasn't on for a while, and I, as far as I know, I didn't offend anyone. Well, but if I didn't offend anyone, then I probably wasn't doing my job either. But so this is my
first. If
it
makes you feel any better, I'll be offended.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I've already offended you, though.
That's true.
Because it's what I do. It's my gift. It's my superpower. But yeah, so it's like 4 out of 5 days, and I feel like I should have stretched first or something. You know what I mean? It's like I think I might have pulled something, but at any rate, it is your MTV refugee, peripheral visionary, tour guide to the far side on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. And you know what? I'm sitting in for Matt. Matt is doing the drive, sitting in for Brian Wilson. And I'm going to start calling Matt Iron Matt. Because that the drive, it takes more endurance than, the other slots during the day. I'm just inside baseball being real. I'm going to start calling him Iron Matt. And in fact, we should do go on one of those AI music sites where you can, plug in your parameters and tell it what you want it to do. I am Iron Matt. We should do something like that. That would just be funny. But at any rate, good to be with you. And I was also I got a message from one of my Facebook folks, and they said, I'm listening to your show and I'm offended. Well, I'm doing my job. I got my mojo back. But in all seriousness, I mean, there's such, it's like mosquitoes in Minnesota in July right now. I mean, with respect to the target-rich environment of just not just information, but crazy information. So I'm going to somewhat kind of stay back out of the way. In football, one of the things that became popular strategically as far as, offensive coordinators and play callers go is to design plays, really approaches to trying to set the defense up by using strategic use of formation. And you want to get your best wide receiver. You want to get your best wide receiver isolated on there. Thank you. I was freaked out thinking I forgot my headphones. My wife, who watches out for me, thank you, because I'm wearing like the studio pair or something. I think maybe guests that come in. So these are like opening my sinuses. The high frequencies are different than I have an old pair of AKGs that are mellow and they fit my old ears. But at any rate, so you want to through alignment get matchups, and ideally you want to isolate like your best guy, in quarters, or better off just one side of the field, against whoever they're gonna line up, whoever they think their best cover guy is. But if you think your guy can beat their guy, I'd still rather have my guy man to man on your guy with half the field to work. if I got Justin Jefferson, I don't care who you got, basically. I'll take that. So, and that was a long way to go for this analogy. But right now, I just want to kind of take that route. And I'll be, jumping back in and, talking politics and talking Biden some as we get later into the afternoon. But, for starters, I'm just going to kind of stay out of that. I'm just going to kind of it's congested right now in the middle of the field, so I'm just going to let that happen. I've had a lovely run as your witness protection program talk radio host for like the past week or so, like I've been saying. And it's been good. Here's what's been great, to be back in the chair, back in front of the microphone, and hang with the clear thinkers. You know what I mean? Hanging with my people, the clear thinkers again. And, one of the things that I think I'm going to do, let me pull this up real quick. I think I did this Tuesday as well. The phone number right off the bat. You're kind of working at a different pace. Kind of like, sometimes pitchers in baseball will, work at a different pace. I'm kind of working at a different pace today. But the call-in number, 615-737-9986 to call into Super Talk 99.7. Here's the deal. There's also, there's the super text line. I'm just going to be as real with you as real can be. And I used to say this more often. Back when Mac the Nice was still around, he had pity on me. So he would read all the texts. And if there was ever anything that, was good for my self-esteem or whatever, he'd let me know. But I just don't, I'm easily distracted. So I don't look at the text line. I'm just letting you know. So if you're, trying to communicate with me and sending something via the super text line, I'm probably not going to see it. And, some folks like to, the folks that sit in mom's basement in their fuzzy slippers and try to snipe at you. Some of those folks will text too, because they don't have the courage to actually call in and have a conversation. But anyway, so you can call in. I'm slowing it down enough that, as we get deeper into this, we can talk. It's Thursday. Slowing it down. It's Thursday. So again, been blessed with this opportunity to kind of, the window I've been looking through is I've had the chance to provide some of the, the hardworking folks here at the station the opportunity to take time off with their families. I can sit in for somebody and then they can get away. And so that's been kind of a cool thing. I actually was just talking to Chris about, they got away, and I think it's his in-laws that are in West Virginia. So it's good to get away. See, we're not, the Dickerson household, we're not big vacation people. We're more like getaway folks. Not Bonnie and Clyde getaway, but, we're just getaway. Just kind of get out, pop out for a few days. The word vacation, the root of it is vacate. So we just, from time to time, we like to try to vacate. So, we have family that live a distance away. When we want to do something like of the longer, more vacation-like variety. We've talked about my oldest son, Jordan, and our daughter-in-law, Lindsay, and our two grandkids, my grand girly, Palmer, who I can't believe is going to be 4 years old in the fall. Unbelievable. And now we have, the first grandson. We have Bowen, who's also, he's going to be 1 in October. Just amazing. But at any rate, so, they live in Arizona. So when we want to do like a show enough vacation, there's Arizona, and then my family is still in Minnesota for the most part. I'm the only one who escaped years ago. No, actually, I loved it. I didn't want to leave there. I didn't want to leave Minnesota. And it ended up being one of those Jehovah sneaky things for my Christian folks in the audience. and God tricksted me, and he got me down here. But so my mom and siblings, and I have about 80 zillion nieces and nephews, and I am not exaggerating. So we like to go up like for Christmas, like the holiday thing, because there's no place like home for the holidays. That'd make a great chorus for a song. But, so, when we want to do something more extended, we'll do that. I tell you what, the other thing that we have done, going back to Minnesota sometimes, is the greatest state fair in the contiguous United States is the Minnesota State Fair. They call it the Great Minnesota Get Together. Unbelievable. I mean, for years, it was the biggest fair of its kind, like in the world. And, like way ahead of the curve. So, sometimes we like to go back just for that because it's such an extravaganza. So, and then during the year, we got a few special events that, we get away and, we're blessed with some like celebrity events where, charity things, golf things. I can't swing at club anymore, but I get to sip, ride, and putt, and, because, you need to ride in the cart and just tell the stories. And that's, for a lot of folks, that's why they come out and spend the money they're spending and do the thing. And it's always a great cause. And it's a lot of these events, it becomes like a family thing. It's like a family reunion. There's one in particular in Greenville, Mississippi. We do it every year. I love it. And there's just folks that we don't see any other time during the year, that they come to that thing because everybody loves it. So anyway, we get away and do those kinds of things. And, the travel and leisure itch gets scratched fairly sufficiently kind of in that mix. So the fact is, I'm the vacation curmudgeon in our family. It's not that we collectively are not vacation people. It's really me. I'm the problem, and I'm owning that. And I've been more and more vocal about it. Because see, I started playing, and this. I started playing music professionally at age 14. I started touring at age 15. So I've been racking up miles and enjoying the best of times and the worst of times on the road most of my life. And then to top that off, I kind of did that for a long time, came out of it, moved to the music business weasel side of the table. But I still had to get on planes. A&R, what it stands for. It's airports and restaurants. So you still end up having to travel. But then, to top it off, when Jordan started recording, like at age 10 and then touring at 11, I became his crew chief, his, front of house engineer, and his head driver. So, when he and his guys were old enough to drive themselves and get themselves down the road safely, once I had peace that they could keep the van on the road and, and keep in one piece, then I reset and kind of, moved on to the next chapter. But most of my contemporaries, folks I went to school with, and, folks, even in the corporate world that you kind of come up with over time, folks kind of have that working for the weekend thing, and, they might be doing something that pays them well, and but they still, a lot of them dream that one day they're going to retire in that RV, get out there, and they're going to go to the Grand Canyon. Dude, the last thing I wanted to do was retire and get on the bus again. Make no sense. So coming off the road was my actual retirement party, and I still get to do shows. This is the town for that. I think I was talking about it Tuesday. That Nashville, affectionately I call it this. It's the town where rock and roll goes to semi-retire. So there's a lot of opportunities to have fun and play music with some great people, old friends, make new friends, whatever. But yeah, I'm just looking to increase the vacation time for the sake of the family. Because, just because I'm over the traveling thing doesn't mean I should punish or deprive them. So, In the meantime, we enjoy our getaways, and that includes our dog, Road Dog. He loves it. We're getting out. We're actually going to head out first thing tomorrow morning and take a few days and just, get refreshed on a short getaway, and it'll be fun. But I tell you what we're going to do. We're going to take a break, and then we'll pivot into some things. But again, I'm slowing it down. Looks like we got, Henry in Memphis is holding. So, which that used to mean something else when I was in high school. But at any rate, we're going to get to Henry. So Henry, thank you for being patient. We'll get to you here in a bit. But we're going to take a break. Des Dickerson in for Matt Murphy on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. We will be back.
Consumer prices continue to rise, and Donald Trump announces a Music City visit. We'll have those stories for you at 12:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All right. So I actually put my headphones back on during the break. And I realized, they have that, they've been used with the volume way too high, way too many years. So they kind of have this little, just enough cones, like abused, like buzz in them that there's just something comforting about it. So, the new ones, they're too crisp. So this is just kind of a thing for me. So, again, we'll get, back into the brouhaha here as we get into the day. We're just kind of ease into it. But, in the meantime, back at the mic, doing what we do on a mission to separate the clear thinkers from the Kool-Aid drinkers, as always, and to make America think again. It's on now. and with that official shotgun start, we're going to bring on Henry in Memphis and see what Henry's got to share this morning. Henry, come on board. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well.
I was actually wondering if you, I lived in Memphis my whole life, and I've just now thought about it because it's getting a little bit worse. But I was wondering if you carried firearms to protect yourself.
See, if I lived in Memphis, not only would I carry all the time, I'd wear Kevlar and everything else because Memphis can get dicey.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. I'm actually 18, about pushing 19, but I'm getting concerned for me and my parents' safety because it's just I work at Todd's Barbecue, pretty famous, but it's just like some of the people who come in, you can see that they just kind of don't care. It's kind of concerning. So I was wondering if you think it was okay for maybe younger people, 19 to 21, they should start running gun safety and start carrying.
I think it's advisable. I think it's practical. I think the knowledge of how to, safely and responsibly use a firearm should be right up there with safely and responsibly driving a car. Because, years ago, if we go back to the days of the frontier and so on, it was something that was part of life. And somewhere along the line in our, more advanced culture, we kind of relegated it to something different. But especially as you get to the place of, like you say, parents growing older, having a family, having kids, you got a responsibility to protect and serve in your own home. So, I'm greatly in favor of it. I'm greatly in favor. In fact, my son goes to a school in Columbia where we live, where they actually have, every school has their tennis. They got the football team and the basketball team and the tennis club. Shoot, they got a shooting club at school.
Like trap teams?
Huh?
You talking about trap teams?
Yeah, it's like that, but no, I'm talking about it's a gun club. It's not like skeet shooting. This is it's about shooting. So, and we're a little bit further out, toward the country, so we're not in
metro.
metro.
I was actually driving back from Chattanooga, went to tour my college. That's where I'm going in the fall. But I was wondering, because I do plan on going back to Memphis eventually, so it just doesn't seem to be getting any better.
No, dude, I'd be carrying. I'd be carrying if I were you. Just flat out.
Yeah, top one in the country. And we have one of the highest kidnapping rates. A teacher got kidnapped last year. It's just scary.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Well, I appreciate you talking to me. I'm going to head out now.
All right.
You have a good day.
Thanks, Henry. Yeah, I'm all for young people. Again, get your training and education and, We don't need any fools. It's just like we don't need kids driving cars that are not mature enough or responsible enough. That's a more dangerous weapon in a lot of ways than a gun. But at any rate, so we're going to take our break here, our bottom of the hour break. Time flies when you're having fun. So and we're having a blast. So it is Des Dickerson with you, in for Matt Murphy on Super Talk 99.7 WTN, and we'll be back.
Good afternoon. It is 12:30, and I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. Partly sunny, 88 degrees now on Music Row. A complete weather forecast is coming up. In economic news, consumer prices still going up a little faster than the Fed would like in order to be able to cut interest rates. June's report shows a 3% increase year over year. It's the smallest increase in over a year, but the Fed has said that it won't be totally comfortable cutting interest rates until inflation is at 2.5%. And here locally, former President Donald Trump announces he will be making a stop in Nashville this month when he makes an appearance during the Bitcoin 2024 conference that's taking place at the Music City Center July 25th through the 27th. Other names in attendance at that conference include Robert F. Kennedy Jr., of course, another presidential candidate, as well as Edward Snowden, comedian Russell Brand, Vivek Ramaswamy, and also Tennessee Senators Bill Hagerty, Marsha Blackburn, and a whole bunch of other folks. That is the latest news. We've got weather on the way. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Because it conserves our natural resources. We donate the donatables so they can be loved and used by another family. Recycling saves us money. The less less we take to the landfill, the more we save. It also saves you money. Spending less on landfills helps keep our prices low. People love to see a win-win scenario. We create a win-win-win scenario. We make junk disappear. All you have to do is point. Call 1-800-GOT-JUNK or visit 1-800-GOTJUNK.com. At Fisher Investments, you may seem like other money managers, but we're different. What makes you so different than the rest of us? Fisher clients receive unparalleled service at every step of the relationship. Tell me more. Our investment counselors focus on service over sales, prioritizing clients' needs. How do you make money? We don't sell any commission-based products. We have a simple management fee based on the value of our clients' portfolio. So we do better and our clients do better. What about client portfolios? We get to know each client, their finances, family, health, lifestyle, and more, and then we tailor a portfolio based on their specific goals and needs. Your clients really come first. Yes, we make them a top priority. Our goal is helping them achieve a comfortable retirement. Wow, maybe we are different. At Fisher Investments, we're clearly different. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
Nothing like some double kick drum. You know, carefully triggered and and retimed electronically, but nonetheless. So, before I spin off into my carefully planned madness, we got Jimmy holding. Let's get Jimmy on and see what Jimmy's got for us. Jimmy, come on board. How you doing?
I'm getting older by the minute and younger by the day.
You'll have to show me that trick. I like that.
Yeah. Your friend that was on there the other day, Baker.
Baker, yeah.
I really wanted to talk to him to see if he knew some people that I used to run around with. I'm from the time I come up in the late 40s, 50s, and 60s. I came up at the time of the Marquis. I used to run around with Doug Dunn and Steve Cropper and Little Terry on the drums.
Yeah. Yeah, Steve, I've met Steve a time or two, because he's been in Nashville for a minute, but yeah.
Yeah, Doug Dunn died this past year, I think.
Yep.
So anyway, I knew the Marquis when they were in high school. They played at Neil's Hideaway in Millington when they were in high school.
Wow.
I was just out of the service. They were all 4 or 5 years older than me and younger than me. And I was out of the service and the only one working. They were still in high school. I think they had Ronnie Stoots as a singer.
Cool.
Ronnie Stoots, his father was a captain on the Memphis Police Force.
That comes in there.
Ronnie Stoots. But anyway, I was only one that was working, and so they would play till 2:00, and they would close up Neil's, and I'd buy 3 or 4 cases of long neck bottles of Pabst Blue Ribbon, and we'd all go down to this old theater that Steve's mother bought, I think, and we tore out the seats, and they kept playing, and all the group from the Neils came down there, and I had those 4 or 5 cases of beer, and we'd drink and party on.
And the band always appreciated whoever brought the beer. That's the way it worked, especially back then.
Yeah. So I just want to let y'all know that the first time that that was a long time ago. That was back in the early 60s. After that, let's see, the Marquis, they made a couple records. Let's see, last night and night before.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember those?
I remember.
They were all musical records.
Yeah.
No singing.
Well, and back then you could do that. You could get instrumental singles played on the radio. Things are different. Of course, now there's a lot on the radio that's not musical, but in a different way. So, but Jimmy, it's always good to hear from you, and it's always good to hear the stories. And I need to hear a Wink Martindale story from you one of these days, though. We gotta have that.
And probably still, when he was calling high school games, he used to give us all the finger and cuss us all. And we would pick on him.
That's great. That's a story I definitely need to hear. Well, Jimmy, thanks for calling in, and we'll catch you down the road. Thanks. So, I just realized that I went through that whole break with my mic live. See, it's a good thing. I'm a wholesome human being, and didn't do or say anything stupid. Of course, I do and say stupid things when we're live, but that's a whole other thing. So I'm just gonna kind of share some thoughts on a Thursday. I might get a start now and get warmed up, and then we'll let it rip in the second hour. But I'm finding myself functioning in kind of this auto-gyroscopic mode in recent days. Here's what I mean by, and I think a lot of people are. Here's what I mean by that. When suddenly your equilibrium is challenged, and your brain just automatically struggles to get it back. I just had the other day, actually pulling in the parking lot here, one of those weird, brain moments where I happened to look down, and then I looked back up right when this automatic gate was opening. But it felt like the car was suddenly moving. You know what I mean? One of those. So, and that's what I mean by this auto-gyroscopic thing, where your brain kind of kicks in to try to get your equilibrium back. And when it happens physically, it's a phenomenon, but it's a necessary phenomenon. It's like, whoa, what's going on? I feel like the world is careening, and I got to get my.
I had that happen to me one time, but it was because I was in L.A. in a hotel, and I got woken up at 2 a.m. by an earthquake.
Well, yeah.
And I stepped out of bed, and I'm like, why is the floor moving?
See, one of the many reasons that I never moved to L.A. is that. Because I'm like, now, why in the world would I want to live in a place where, you never know, the whole earth just might shift.
And if it doesn't, they still take 50% of your income in taxes.
There you go. And now, it's a whole different kind of crazy. And I just, it's not fun like it used to be. Old LA, old Hollywood, it was kind of worth, it was worth putting up with the mess. But now you just have to step over the mess. It's a whole other thing. So, I can relate to that. But trying to regain your balance in a moment where balance is in a continuous state of flux, I just kind of think that's where we are. Because every day, by the time I get to my car and listen again, of course, we get all the news during the breaks here. There'll be something new. There'll be some new crazy. There's going to be a Biden press conference today, right? 4:30 for his first solo. Well, there's going to be a whole new batch of madness, hot off the griddle, dispatched. And that's just kind of where we are. It's like, it's every moment there's something new. So, and I don't think we were necessarily trying to escape, but over the holiday weekend, it just kind of happened. We binge watched lots of Caesar Milan, the dog whisperer. It's one of those things where when you start watching it, it actually is hard to stop because it'll go from one case to the next. The dog whisperer. And, at first, I don't know if you've ever watched. You ever watch The Dog Whisperer, Bill?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
It's pretty incredible stuff. But at first, every episode, it seems like the dog is this like psychotic red zone head case every time.
It's going to eat our baby. We need you.
It already ate our baby. You know what I mean? In some cases, it's like, what in the world? But see, that's actually almost never the real issue. The problem is rarely the dog, it's the people. Dog's not the problem. It's the master that's the problem. The dogs are always in chaos because the people are chaotic. And now I'm going somewhere with this. We're working our way toward it because we're kind of moving at a slower pace today. But it's the people that are chaotic, not the dog. So watching Caesar and watching the dog whisperer, it's like it's put on display in such a way that it, of course, the dog is fine. The people are out of their minds. And see, invariably, Caesar addresses the people issue, and it frees up the pets to be and to do what they are. They can go back to being dogs again, and they can be animals, and they can actually do the stuff that's characteristic of their breed. Chihuahuas can actually act like Chihuahuas again instead of acting like pit bulls, because that's one of the things that happens. They get all discombobulated and they get out of their lane. And balance ensues. Peace is established, and normal can finally emerge for the dog and the owner. And he kind of frames pet parents and pets in households as packs, like a dog pack. Understanding the order of the pack, this is one of the things we've learned watching Caesar. Understanding the order of the pack is critical to establishing balance. And not just the dog or the dogs, but the people, because the family, everybody's part of the pack. From the dog's point of view, particularly, everybody's part of the pack. And when all the members of the pack are in their place and in order, the balance and the productivity, the harmony, and the happiness follow. So again, I'm going somewhere with this because a lot of our discombobulatedness, the secret of it, can all be found just in understanding the pack. We're going to talk about that more when we come back. Des Dickerson on 60. Woo! I need a break now. 99.7 WTN Super Talk. We're going to be back in just a moment.
Well, the Sharks continue to circle in the water over President Biden's candidacy, and a Dickerson County teen dies in a car crash. We'll have those stories at 1 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
What the dog doing?
Yeah, as we're talking about the dog whisperer,
What the dog doing?
it just seemed appropriate.
What the dog doing?
And this actually the mashup of those two things, it works. Something about My Chemical Romance and what the dog doing. So I looked up for a second. We in the studio, there's like a monitor, obviously sound down, up, in the corner. And so if you want to, if you're so inclined, you can sit and watch. But see, for me, that's just like reading the text. I get distracted. But, every once in a while, your eyes just kind of go up there. Fortunately for me, I've had like 2 severe neck surgeries over the course of the past almost 3 years. So I really can't lift my head up. So, the temptation to get distracted by the TV is mitigated by the fact that I can't bend my neck. But I was looking up and just happened to see one of those A Place for Mom commercials that was, either coming on or going off. And it always occurs to me, is somebody going to start a place called Dad's Out of Luck? I'm glad.
That's brilliant. Dad's out of luck. Dad, you're going in the home.
Yeah, Dad, you're on your own. Something like that. Because we take care of Mom, and we should take care of Mom. But, that just always makes me think there's no place for Dad. That's, you did your thing, and thanks for the paycheck and the memories. But anyway, so I talk about these things because nobody else will. And
Cameron's sitting in the car right now. Cannon's sitting in the car right now going, that's a good idea. Maybe I'll be an entrepreneur like Dad.
And I'm always telling them, meet a need, son. Just come up with an idea and meet a need. Maybe not that one, but we'll see. So, we're going to continue on down this road that Caesar has paved because we're going somewhere with it. And there's an incredible insight that we're going to be able to glean from this phenomenon of, the dog whisperer addressing people issues and freeing up, pets and making dysfunctional households function again and all that kind of stuff. Because I don't know if you've noticed, but we are a dysfunctional household right about now in these United States of America. But, if we just check out what the dog's doing, we can learn some things. So,
What the dog doing?
I don't know where that came from, but I love it.
Yeah, somebody on the text line asked where it was from, and I just explained how you found it through Canon.
Yep, that's it. He's my odd clip finder. So
What the dog doing?
I could just put that on a loop. At any rate, we're going to take a break. It's the top of the hour. We're going to recharge and refuel. We will be back. Des Dickerson with you on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. We'll be right back.
Good afternoon. We're coming up on 1 p.m. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. We've got a partly sunny sky, 88 degrees, a full forecast coming up. Hours before his high-stakes news conference, one thing is sure, despite his efforts, President Biden, he just has not ended the chatter about whether he should step aside. ABC's Stephen Portnoy, he's got the latest from D.C.
A source confirms the Biden campaign has begun doing its own internal head-to-head polling of a race pitting Kamala Harris against Donald Trump. The source says it's because Trump has been mentioning Harris on the stump. The latest ABC News Washington Post Ipsos poll shows Harris performing slightly stronger against Trump than Biden. Versus Biden, Trump is ahead by 1 point in the poll, while Harris is ahead of Trump by 3.
And, of course, the president's first solo news conference in 8 months can be heard today live right here, as well as on all of the SuperTalk 99.7 WTN platforms, the apps, and what have you. It's set to start at 5:30 our time. Matt Murphy, he's in for Brian Wilson on the drive. And you know Matt, he'll have all of the on-the-spot analysis. And very sad news out of Dickerson County, where a 17-year-old boy was killed in a single-vehicle crash yesterday. The crash happening along Plunders Creek Road. According to a crash report provided by the Tennessee Highway Patrol, the young man was driving a Jeep Wrangler east on Plunders Creek Road when the vehicle ran off the road and struck a tree. The driver has been identified as 17-year-old Tristan James. There were no other vehicles or passengers involved in the crash. That is the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Des Dickerson in for Matt Murphy. A 99.7 Super Talk. Brought to you by our friends at Dad, You're Screwed, which is a response to Place for Mom. Just kidding. Somebody's going to do that, though. So, first of all, let me once again shout out our call-in number, 615-737-9986. That is 615-737-9986. Feel free to call in. You know, Rush used to have open line Friday. I'm just kind of, we're going to call this Take Your Time Thursday. So if you got something to talk about, you want to call in about bands in the 60s, whatever. I mean, we're here. But right now, we're doing a deep dive with Cesar Millan and the amazing things that we can learn just from whispering to those dogs.
What the dog doing?
What the dog do? So, again, it's interesting because he'll frame pet parents, families, and pets in households as packs. And when you start to think of it that way, oh, okay. So, you know, maybe dad is the pack leader. Oftentimes, mom is a pack leader. If the right person is assuming that role, but that's not who they are, that there's going to be your problem right there. But anyway, it's fascinating what you can learn just from that. And here's the thing about all of this. The people issues and it, you know, being the key to unlocking the dog issues, it's identical to human parenting. It's identical. And we don't like to hear this. And sometimes we don't want to hear this. But, you know, bad parenting produces disorder. Yep, I said it. I'm going to say it again. Bad parenting produces disorder. Now, you can have disorder and have great parenting because people make choices. And, you know, folk do stupid things. But the principle is bad parenting produces disorder. Chaotic people create chaotic environments. I told you we were going somewhere with this. So correct dysfunctional parenting by addressing dysfunctional parents. Caesar's mantra is better human, better dog. It's the same with people. Better parent, better kid. Now, conversely, you know, weird parents, weird kids. You know, start to observe that one and see how consistently that principle holds up. Weird parents, weird kids. So here's the thing. Nations are, at their foundations, collections of families and communities. I'm going to say that again because that's important for us to understand. Nations are, at their foundations, collections of families and communities. You know, it's not the different colored spaces on the globe or the map. Collections of families and communities. And to the degree that there's cohesion in the core values and pursuits of a people, their families and their communities, to that degree, there's cohesion in a nation. As go households, so go nations. But where the family falters, nations fall. It's just like with the dog. People don't think in terms of, oh, wait a minute, you mean the problem with the dog isn't that the dog is psychotic, but that the house is out of order? And if we straighten out the household, then the dogs will follow in and fall in line, and the nation, the house, will have peace and prosperity and order. Is that what you're telling me? It's exactly what I'm telling you. So if a nation goes haywire, it can be directly traced to the foundation of its families. Let's say that again, because that's important. If a nation goes haywire, it can be directly traced to the foundation of the parents. Is as go households, so go nations. It's so simple. It's so simple. But at the same time, it's so challenging. If a nation goes haywire, it can be directly traced to the foundation of its families. If a nation prospers, on the other hand, it can directly be attributed to the foundation of its families. Think about that. If a nation prospers, it can be directly attributed to the foundation of its families. The generations of America, spun out because American parents lost the plot. The pack leader lost the plot. See, the objective, and this one, just might as well keep your toes out there because I'm about to just stand on them. The objective is not to be liked or even admired by your kids, nor was it ever. The objective is to lead, not be liked. And one of the things that you see all the time on The Dog Whisperer is dogs are out of control. Houses are pure chaos. Folk can't even have people over. Folks can't visit because chaos. Well, oftentimes it's because, the pack leader just wants to be loved by the dog. People want to be loved by the dog. You're not there to be loved by the dog. You're there to lead the dog. Then the dog is free to do they dog thing and be the blessing in the household that the dog is made to be. It's amazing. It's so simple, but it's so true. So, I got to say that again. The objective is not to be liked by your kids. You know what? I tell my kids that all the time. I tell my kids all the time that, son, I'm not here to be your friend. I'm not here to be your friend. I'm your dad. You'll have lots of friends, good friends, bad friends, whatever. But you'll only have one dad. Only have one. So at the end of the day, if I do my job, if I do what I'm here to do, then, my sons, because I've had the opportunity to raise a couple of them. Actually, we got a middle one too. But that's what it comes down to. So I'll tell you what we're going to do. I think, I see now. So we got a call from Tom and Franklin, and we're gonna get with Tom here in a minute because we've stuck a stick into the hornet's nest. We're talking about that place for Mom, but it's the foundation of the family and the stability of households is the key. If the nation is whacked, it's because the households got whacked, because the parents lost the plot. That's what happens. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to check in with Tom and Franklin, who's got a comment about A Place for Mom. Tom, come on board.
Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah. Let me make a comment about A Place for Mom. And I know the world is struggling with dads not being home. But that organization helped my father 4 separate times, never asked for a penny until he died at 93. It is a great organization, and quite frankly, we shouldn't be poking fun at advertisers because they put you in your job. So let's do it with respect. I was involved in that station when it was bought out of bankruptcy, and I watched Dave Ramsey's first show from a studio there. So it's irritating to hear that, and I'll leave it at that.
And that's good, and thanks for calling, because I'm going to tell you this. I know Dave. I was at Dave's very first Financial Peace seminar. Dave used to have me come in and do devotions for his staff back when there were fewer than 30 of them. So let's do this. Let's not be overly sensitive, and let's not overreact to comedy, because frankly, that's one of the problems we have in our country right now. People don't know when to be serious and when to have a sense of humor. So here's the bottom line. No one is denigrating A Place for Mom at all. At all. The joke was that it's like, Dad, with respect to the names of organizations and so on, the apparent outward-facing focus, Dad's left out in the cold. I'm glad they helped your dad. That's awesome. People don't know that story. Maybe A Place for Mom needs to hire an agency and go on a brand offensive and let people know that they have that side to what they do as well. And Tom, I appreciate your passion, but at the same time, don't jump down my throat when you don't know what's going on with me. You don't know me. And you
no, I don't, but this is my first listening to you.
Well, then maybe you should wait. Maybe you should wait. Maybe you should wait and get a larger sample size. Because
how about a guy who spent 40 years in the radio business?
And that's great. And I've spent 50 plus years in the music business. So wait, are we going to have a tinkling contest now? Is that what it is?
We may even know each other from that side too. But it came across, and I understand you're trying to create an atmosphere where all parts of a family are inclusive, but those people spend money with that network. They do it, and without understanding the whole.
And I appreciate you, but first of all, they're not advertisers on this show. Number one, which was why I wouldn't have said anything with respect to an advertiser on this network or on the station.
Because I'm absolutely sure. Direct response stuff.
Dude, I'm absolutely sure that on this station, we do not have A Place for Mom as an advertiser. I would not make I don't make comments about our advertisers ever. Ever. So again, you're saying this is the first time you've listened. You know what? Wisdom would say,
I listen to your station all the time.
Get a little bit larger sample size before you jump to concussions about who I am and what I believe, because you don't know me. Thanks for calling, Tom. We'll talk to you another time. Sometimes I just got to channel my inner Matt Murphy. And, not that Matt ever goes off on people, but sometimes Matt does go off on
people. I was going to say, let's keep it honest here.
So I'm just trying to be true to the spirit of the Matt Murphy show since I'm sitting in for Matt. And sometimes you just got to, let a brother know. Well, hold up, dude. You better step back. You don't know me. You don't know anything about me. At any rate, we're going to go ahead. We're going to take another break. And we're not going to denigrate any sponsors. What a presumptuous SOB. Can I just say that? Presumption is the lowest and least reliable form of information. And it says a lot about who you are and who you think you are. So we'll just leave it at that. Des Dickerson on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. We'll be right back.
More Democrats reportedly on the cusp of asking the president to bow out of his campaign. And Donald Trump, he's headed to Nashville. Those stories coming up at 1:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
What the dog doing?
Oh yeah, I'm gonna be myself here.
What the dog doing?
And if you don't know me, then you need to step back. So
Wait, hold on. We got to play this one just to commemorate this.
yeah.
Well, anyone who spends a significant amount of time with me finds me disagreeable.
Yeah, yes, indeed. Just ask my wife. No, just kidding. She's one of the few people that can go toe to toe. That's it was a prerequisite to being married to me. No, Ashley, my wife is the sweetest woman on planet Earth, and it's precisely that sweetness that is the kryptonite right there. That can just melt me, and that's it. I'm done. I'm going to be quiet now. So, we're talking about Cesar Millan, talking about the dog whisperer, using this context of understanding the pack and the household, and nations and households. So, the pack leaders, the parents, abdicated leadership. Generations of America spun out because American parents lost the plot. The pack leaders abdicated leadership and let the back of the pack dogs lead. That's what it is. If you watch Caesar, almost always the first thing he diagnoses when there's chaos, when a dog seems out of control, there's chaos in a household, what's the situation with this pack and the pack order? And almost always, there's a back of the pack dog that, because of abdication on the part of the pack leader, has instinctively tried to step up and lead the pack when it's not in them to do that. That's not what they are. It's the same thing. It's a powerful principle. And that's what happened. Parents abdicated leadership and let the back of the pack, the kids, that's what I was saying earlier, it's not, your objective is not to be liked. It's to love. Here's what the amazing irony is? If you will put leading, always put loving them first, but if you will put leading your kids first, the other thing takes care of itself. But if you try to emphasize being liked, they actually lose respect for you. It's amazing. It's amazing the degree to which, especially later in life, because the Bible says, train up a child in the way they should go, and when they're older, they won't depart from it. See, that's kind of tricksy. Train them up when they're young, and then there's a space in between where they got to start making decisions and figuring it out. When they're older, they won't depart from it. It's good stuff. So the founding wasn't just some dudes that said, hey, let's start a country. It wasn't, Bill and Ted's excellent founding. There were foundational principles and things that they understood needed to be built with intent into the foundation in order for this thing to be able to stand. So it was profoundly spiritual, eminently practical, and divinely ordained. Talking about the founding. It was a moment orchestrated by the Creator. A literal and spiritual stewardship was established in, by, and through the founders. It was passed on and passed down as a sacred trust. So we're talking about how all this stuff has gone haywire and why. There are principles of leadership whose power source is in the biblical principle of headship, where we're talking about the pack leader. It's that pack thing again. Abdicate the sacred trust of headship and things don't end well. Things don't go well, things don't end well. Abdicate headship and leadership dissipates. Back to what I was just saying about parenting. The irony is that when you try to be a friend and not be a leader, then leadership dissipates. And respect and honor suffer. See, the power of enforcement of all of this, all of the above derives from a biblical principle. And I call it the go ye mandate from Matthew 28, verse 19. Go ye therefore and make disciples of all nations. What's a disciple? According to Webster, a convinced adherent of a school or individual. So you can be an adherent of an individual. That's what Christianity is, adherence of Jesus. But you can be an adherent of a school, of a set of principles, a way of thinking, irrespective of the source thereof. See, Jesus told them, go and make people disciples of my way, my truth, and my life. Establish this new realm where I rule and reign in their hearts, their minds, and their lives, in the lives of people. And see, understand, this was after he had been done in, brutally tortured, murdered, buried, but back again, visibly so, openly so. We're going to take a break here in a second, but I want to make this point before we do. Notice what he did not say. It doesn't say anything about making converts. That's Amway. Talking about making disciples, people who will be adherents of the school and of the individual. See, although religion loves to reduce this mandate to mere proselytizing, just getting a head count, that's not what it is. That's not what Jesus said. I want to keep going, but we got to take a break. We'll wrap it up on the other side of the break. But again, we started out talking about Caesar and talking about, out of control chihuahuas. But where we're going is what the heck happened here? And what do we do to get the pack back in order? Des Dickerson on 99.7 WTN will be back.
Good afternoon. It is 1:31. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. Partly sunny, 89 degrees. If you think it's hot now, just wait. We'll have a full forecast in just a couple of minutes. Two more House Democrats appear to be on the brink of joining the slow drip of calls for Biden to step aside. This, as ABC News confirms, that the Biden campaign is testing head-to-head matchups of Vice President Harris against former President Trump. And House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, a Democrat from New York, at a weekly news conference on Capitol Hill today confirmed that House Democrats are in discussions about the future of the Biden campaign.
We have engaged in a process of talking to each other. Those conversations have been candid, comprehensive, and clear-eyed, and they continue.
Mr. Biden's presumptive opponent, former President Donald Trump, he's announced that he's going to be making a stop right here in Music City this month when he makes an appearance during the Bitcoin 2024 conference taking place at the Music City Center. That will happen later this month. Other names suggested that will be in attendance at the conference include presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr., along with Edward Snowden, comedian Russell Brand, Vivek Ramaswamy, as well as Tennessee Senators Bill Hagerty and Marsha Blackburn, and a whole long list of other folks. That'll be the latest news for you. We've got the weather next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Anyone who spends a significant amount of time with me finds me disagreeable.
Des Dickerson back with you, along with Seven Dust on 99.7 Super Talk, WTN. And reminding us once again that presumption is the lowest and least reliable form of information. Companion to that is the proverb that says, even a fool appears wise if he keeps his mouth shut. I'm just, for those with ears to hear, I'm just going to leave that out there. The phone number, is 615-737-9986 if you want to call in. And we have great callers on this show. You know, every once in a while, though, you just, you know. So we're talking about, we started out talking about Cesar Millan and Redline, Crazy Dogs, and then we've worked our way down to the foundations of the nation. There was a literal and spiritual stewardship that was established in, by, and through the founders. It was passed on and passed down as a sacred trust. And there are principles of leadership whose power source is that principle, the biblical principle of headship. It's the pack thing. If the pack is out of order, and if the head of the pack isn't leading the pack, then the pack's got problems. Man, that applies so many ways right now that I'm having to restrain myself. So abdicate the sacred trust of headship and things don't go well. Abdicate headship and leadership dissipates. And the power to enforce all of this is that go ye mandate that I mentioned in Matthew chapter 28, verse 19. Go ye therefore and make disciples. You know when America works? When we're disciples of this thing. When we're convinced adherents, prepared to uphold and defend the Constitution and the principles by which we're constituted. So as this mandate, I believe it's a divine mandate, was embodied and fulfilled and obeyed via the American covenant, both we as a nation and the world prospered. Never been anything like it before. The dream that was America became the rising tide that lifted all ships. Unbelievable. You could even put folks in, because there are folks that like say, well, yeah, but you know, slavery and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, slavery was horrible and stupid. And I can speak authoritatively because I'm descended from slaves. But you could even put folks in chains, throw them in the holds of ships like so many bags of wheat. But if they became disciples of the way, they prospered. And I talked about that Tuesday. Talked about how people, formerly oppressed people whom you could not teach to read because it was against the law, prospered because of these principles, because the leaders led and the families were in order. And because the families were in order, the families prospered. And that's why millions flocked here and still do, legally and illegally. So how and why did we end up in this place in which we now find ourselves, floundering at best? Because we abdicated that sacred trust. And I submit to you that primarily in our failure to disciple our own nation, our failure to consistently create convinced adherence of the way, the truth, and the life of a school or individual. And the truth is an individual. That's for another day. We're not at church, but I had to get that in there. So we abdicated this sacred trust, and we failed to disciple our own nation. And the back of the pack overtook the front, the leader of the pack, and chaos always ensues. It's the lesson of the dog whisperer. If you get the back of the pack leading the pack, the pack is screwed. So we collapsed from within. And the bulwark upon which the rest of the world prospered, that rising tide that lifted all those ships, collapsed with it. I got to go to the Gospel of Matthew one more time. Matthew 12:25. Every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation. And every city or house divided against itself will not stand. Remember, Abraham Lincoln famously quoted that. Why? Because it applied, in the eminently practical sense, it applied to the very stewardship that he restored and was used to save a nation. A nation that, believe it or not, was in more chaos than we're in right now. So the failure and the refusal to disciple our own nation brought about our division and our downfall. To put it simply, our pack is in chaos. We got Stephen in Paris. He wants to talk about the Trump VP pick. And I'm about to close out this segment, so it's a good time to take a call. But I want us to kind of let this set the tone for the rest of our time today, because I told you I was going to get back to the political thing. And really, it's the ideological and the sociological and the anthropological. It's all that. But our pack is in chaos. Stephen, what do you have for us?
Hey, sorry to throw subjects around over here. I'm just wondering, do you know? So we have a few nominees, I guess, or what you would say, people that have been vetted for the VP choice for Trump coming up. But does he have to choose between those, or can he just pick anybody? Do you know how that works? I mean, can he just come in tomorrow and just announce and say, "Hey, I'm picking this person"? It don't necessarily have to be somebody that he's, do they have to go through a process first, or how does that work?
Well, you can bet they got a process. He didn't get to where he is in life, but by not, having a process. But the reality is that choice lies ultimately with him, but there are people that he trusts, people whose advice and counsel he takes into account. And interestingly, in his first term, if anything, that's probably the place where weakness was found and exploited, because there were people that undoubtedly now, the benefit of hindsight, people he shouldn't have listened to, but that's a whole other thing. So he's going to choose who he's going to choose. But there's a process. There's a team involved in helping him with respect to his decision-making in that process. And he can pick whoever he wants. I mean, if he wanted to, he can make Morgan Freeman, his VP pick. And Morgan has been VP so many times in the movies, he's got it down.
That's awesome. That's great. Awesome. All right. Well,
anyone who spends a significant amount of time with me finds me disagreeable.
But anyway, Stephen, that was a great point and a great question, because a lot of people wonder that. And thanks for bringing that in. So I'll tell you what we're going to do, because we're about to turn the corner into another segment here. So good spot to take a break. It's Des Dickerson with you, in for Matt Murphy, who in turn will be in for Brian Wilson, taking us on the drive. Better him driving than me, because, sometimes I drive angry. But at any rate, Super Talk 99.7 WTN will be, that's all, folks. We'll be back in a minute.
Well, the blood in the water continues to flow over President Biden's candidacy. And just like Blockbuster Video, another era of video retailing comes to a close. We'll explain. That all comes up at 2 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All right.
Well, anyone who spends a significant amount of time with me finds me disagreeable.
And we're gonna have to play Mr. Garvey later on too. Actually, we missed an opportunity to
mischievous and deceitful, chicanerous and deplorable.
Should have played that after that call earlier. But at any rate.
The problem with that bit, though, is what really sells it is the look on his face.
Totally.
I mean, Keegan is just, he sells it with his facial expression.
Everything about that bit is perfect, right down to the character. You know, I spent, 25 years in the public schools, and that's what they're like. They got a chip on their shoulder. It's size of a boulder. But anyway, I want to touch on something real quick because I was accused earlier, wrongfully so, of denigrating one of our sponsors. They weren't our sponsor, and I wasn't denigrating anybody. It was a spoof that I shared. But I was accused of denigrating a sponsor. The only time that I ever, and it's very rare, that I ever mention any of our sponsors is to give an unsolicited, unpaid praise report. And I want to do that real quick. Aaron Stokes. I met Aaron Stokes, used to go to the same church with Aaron many years ago when he had just started Eurofix, like, you know, in the barn or whatever on his property. And in talking about this sacred trust, talking about stewarding these principles, I can say for a fact and believe personally and confidently, that's a man who has prospered in his way and has grown in his business because he stewards those principles. The things that he talks about, he walks them out. He doesn't just talk about them, he be about them. So that's the only time you hear me mention any sponsor of this show and this station is when I want to say yes and amen to who they are and what they are and the value of what they do. So, you know, we're going to pivot into something, and I'm just going to kind of, you know, tease it and just kind of stripe the field a little bit. You know, I have this thing pretty much every night. I call it the board meeting because I sleep in these segments, and I, you know, oftentimes I will dream things or things will strike me in the board meeting as I'm waking up. The other night, in the midst of the weirdness that is this present moment, I was struck by this sense that, you know what, there's a light at the end of all this weirdness. And it's closer than we think. So I'm going to go into that after we round the clubhouse turn into the final hour, and we're going to talk about that some. And you can call in, you know, and we'll share the number again here in a little bit, but you can call in, and we love to hear from you. Just remember, presumption is the lowest and least reliable form of information. So if you're going to come correct. At any rate, Des Dickerson with you, in for Matt Murphy, who will later on be in for Brian Wilson. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN. We will be back in just a moment.
Good afternoon. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. We're a minute shy of 2 p.m. We are looking at a partly sunny sky, 89 degrees. A weather forecast is on the way, and it is a hot one. Well, hours ahead of a high-stakes news conference at the conclusion of the NATO summit, congressional Democrats continuing to quietly discuss whether President Biden should remain their party's standard-bearer. ABC's Stephen Portnoy, he is reporting now from Washington.
In a new memo to supporters, the Biden campaign is insisting that despite the president's debate performance, the race is still close and Biden can win it. The latest ABC News Washington Post Ipsos poll bears out the closeness of the race with a single-point advantage for Trump nationally. But that same survey shows 85% of Americans think Biden is too old for a second term, and a majority of his own supporters believe he should drop out of the race.
And, of course, the president's first solo news conference today in 8 months. It can be heard live right here, as well as all of our different platforms, the app and whatnot. It's set to start at 5:30 our time. Matt Murphy been sitting in for Brian Wilson on the drive all week. He'll be there this evening as well with, of course, his witty and on-the-spot and insightful analysis as he looks at me through the glass. Okay, it's the end of another era as the DVD rental business with those little red kiosks. Yeah, it's going bye-bye. Here's ABC's Jason Nathanson.
A commercial for Redbox once declared,
"Renting from Redbox is the smartest decision I've ever made."
But that's not the case anymore. In the age of streaming, DVD rental services have become more and more obsolete. And that's the fate of Redbox, which has 24,000 kiosks outside supermarkets and other businesses nationwide. Those kiosks are shutting down, and more than 1,000 employees will be laid off as the company liquidates its assets. In recent years, Redbox did incorporate a streaming component, but it was too little too late.
That is the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
All right. We have rounded the clubhouse turn into the final hour. It's Des Dickerson.
Mischievous and deceitful, chicanerous and deplorable.
Mr. Garvey, ladies and gentlemen. If you've never, seen that segment, and there's a couple of different segments, you got to go on YouTube and find it because it is brilliant. It is brilliant and perfect. And I love it. So I shared as we went into the break, I had this moment in the middle of the night the other night, and I saw what I believe is the light at the end of the weirdness, as deeply bizarre as things have become. And then there is no doubt, I don't think anybody needs to be convinced that we are in a deeply bizarre moment. But I have this growing sense that out of this present insanity we got some work to do, but can emerge an actual, better, brighter day. And, just not that long ago, I don't know if I would have espoused that viewpoint. But the bright future that I see is that the dream that was America can be restored. I believe that. But we have to do our due diligence. And I've been talking about that in the days that I've been with you here. We have to do our due diligence. We have to put in the work, all of us, and we must all do our part to use the recent events to collectively move the needle. We got to channel some Rahm Emanuel and not let the crises of the moment go to waste. Because for some who up until now have firmly aligned themselves with the unreality cohort, what we used to call the left, for some of them, denial may well be giving way to acceptance right now. And yeah, there's a lot of folks talking, and a lot of it is, just people being people and talking out of both sides of their necks. But I believe that there are people that they're thinking right now. We talk about it. That's our purpose here, to make America think again. Well, we got a chance. We got a chance to instigate along those lines because there are people that are ready to think again. Our greatest shot, the biggest knockout punch that we can throw as our collective starting point is first and foremost to change the electoral narrative. And right now, that's a gopher ball coming over the middle of the plate. As I've been saying, job one is Donald Trump's reelection. We cannot take our eyes off that ball. We can't presume, we can't assume, and that, frankly, that's been part of the failure of, what we used to call conservatism. What I now call just clear thinking. We got the clear thinkers have to emerge and step up. And we have to get Donald Trump reelected first and foremost. The unreality cohort has fought to keep the narrative rather narrow and hateful and enemy-centered and personal. It's been a personal thing. And in all my years, I've never seen it just devolve to just that, just personal animus and hatred. Hate Trump, destroy Trump. It's all they have, and it's all they've emphasized. From the networks on down. Biden himself only has one message. In one of his speeches recently, he says himself, "I'm the best shot we have at beating Trump." The best shot we have at beating Trump. Not even the old Barack Obama thing, no hope and change. Just no, beat Trump. I'm the best shot we have to beat him. Some on the left are realizing that beating Trump isn't a plan for a better tomorrow. It's not a strategy. It's not a strategy for a hopeful future. And the cohort has been the dog chasing the bus. All they focused on is catching the bus, but then what? And that's what's happening at this moment. A lot of folks are seeing, well, wait a minute. We've been chasing the bus. What are we going to do now? So many on the left, I believe, began to see in the debate debacle that kind of set this, careening into the destruction of national equilibrium. I believe that through this, many people have seen that there are bigger issues than their Trump hatred and bigger problems than, climate change or so-called, over-incarceration. And let me just, real quick, I'm going to say something because I don't know that I've spoken to this on air, or at least not spoken to it often, but this myth of over-incarceration, you know what? Yes, there is a mathematical preponderance of young men of color, black and brown, in the penal system. But you know why that disparity, that numerical disparity exists? Because there's also been a disproportionate number of young men of color committing crimes. And a lot of them, it's been committing them against one another. Black on black crime, etc. So are there, false incarcerations? And so, of course, there are mistakes made. It's the nature of the system. But the myth, the lie of over-incarceration, it's not a racial thing. It's a law and order thing. So I had to say that. Haven't talked about that. So their whole world, talking about the cohort, their whole world has been beat Trump, stop Trump. And as they panic over what is now their self-identified candidate disaster, now's the time that you and I may be able to actually successfully make a case. And I talked about that earlier in the week. I talked about, there are 5 PowerPoints at least that we can all undertake and take on as a personal mission that can help to make that case. So I want to talk about the non-elephant in the room. The idea that, especially that now, is the Democrat Party and just in general, the left, their obsession is that their insurmountable problem, it's we gotta get a new candidate. We gotta get Biden. Now there's all the talk of, what's actually happening behind the scenes. This is Barack Obama. Every once in a while I hear people intone Clinton's name, but and here's the deal. I said this before. Originally I had thought about, doing a segment on this today. I've done it before. Last August, I went into an extensive unpacking of how Obama never left the building, folks. And this has not been, Joe Biden has not been orchestrating what's happened during his term. Obama lives a mere few minutes away from the Capitol. And the staff was meeting together at Obama's house regularly, daily for a while. So I don't think for a minute that he's not been in the mix the whole time. But again, the non-elephant in the room is their insurmountable problem isn't the candidate. It's their brand ID and their product irrelevance. Because, see, it's not a matter of, they just think, we just need to trade in the blue Buick for the brown one and fix it that way. But here's the problem. Buick, and I'm using this metaphorically, I'm not criticizing Buick. Buick has been outed as trash. It's time to recall the Buick. We don't need a different Buick. We need to recall it. So on the one hand, we have the opportunity to lead to the light, those who will follow. Come to the light. And on the other, we have the opportunity to throw the solid punches that we have in our arsenal to throw and to knock out the opposition. Rush Limbaugh used to talk about the fact that you don't try to debate the left. You have to defeat the left. That's still true. It's true then. It's true now. So again, number one, we got to get Trump reelected. Secondly, I believe it's vitally important that in getting back the White House, and really, we need both houses of Congress. But in positioning ourselves for that, it's time to take out the media industrial complex while they're hobbled, because they are hobbled right now. Make no mistake about it. And again, we have to win the seats necessary in order to utilize the legislative tools at hand to neutralize the tech cartel. I mean, they've been floating and bouncing around forever legislation that would take, especially with respect to the social platforms, that would take away this kind of weird immunity that they've had. The same restrictions and accountability that we utilize with the press, social hasn't been under those restraints, and they should be. And that can be done legislatively. Next, we need to reject the voices of the left resoundingly in both media and marketplace. Again, they're hobbled. We need to kneecap them now. You stop trying to be nicer than Jesus and kneecap them. And clear thinkers, we need to hold the line and hold each other accountable in this. We need to be rising up with one voice. We need to do what the left has always done. They've always marched in lockstep. And just one example, and this is another one I've talked about before I've at length and done segments on and thought about this week. But again, it requires more time than I've got with you left today. But Disney, what happened with Bud Light was spontaneous, and it was a one-off. And it was one company, but at the end of the day, it was one brand. Well, with Disney, they're doing infinitely more damage, systemically, and there needs to be a concerted effort that I've talked about before. That's just one example. I'm going to say this. My greatest concern personally with respect to all these things, but regarding Donald Trump's reelection specifically, is that, there could be election rigging again. And, do you know why there was such an onslaught against anyone who would dare to question the results of the last election, even though the left, the cycle before, all they did was talk about Donald Trump and his illegitimacy, and it was the Russians that got him elected, and it was, Russia collusion. And then just before the last election, they undermined clear evidence, credible evidence that the Hunter Biden laptop was real. Oh, no. We got all these intelligence officials, and they said it has all the earmarks of misinformation. Well, no, now it's come to light that that's not the case. In fact, my man's been convicted over some things, and it's not over yet. So the election rigging, don't let them get away with it this time. Stop it on the ground. Stop it in the trenches. Stop it in your precincts. Be as staunch, immovable, resolute, and united as the cohort has always been. For far too long, and I'm going to name Republicans by name, they've been too satisfied with their own brand of virtue signaling and good intentions and high-mindedness. Well, can I tell you something? Good intentions and moral victories have no value and they have no meaning. Win, dominate, and never, ever let up again. Rush was right. You have to defeat the left. And you got to put the hobnail boot on the neck and keep it there. You know, it's time. And we got Gary holding, and we're going to get to Gary here in a minute because he wants to talk about Trump voters. And then that's a perfect thing for us to segue into. But we're going to take a break first. When we come back, Gary, hang in there. We're going to get Gary on the line. But it's time to make the late Al Davis proud. Just win, baby. Des Dickerson on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. We're going to be back after this break.
Vice President Kamala Harris, she's in North Carolina, and she's still out there championing her boss. And Donald Trump, he announces a Music City visit. We'll have those stories at 2:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Turn that up. We're just going to listen for a bit. Okay,
mischievous and deceitful, chicanerous and deplorable.
So that's a great band called Nothing More. And the chorus of that song, I love it. Everybody wants to change the world, but one thing is clear. No one ever wants to change themselves. And that's what I'm talking about. I'm putting our focus clearly on us. If we want to change the world, let's change ourselves. And let's get after it. So we got Gary in Greenbrier holding. We want to get Gary on, see what Gary's got for us. Come on board, my friend.
Hey, listen, I just heard you for the first time before I got to say what I got to say. You're excellent. I mean, I could listen to you all day long.
Well, thank you. You need to tell some people that here. Why does this man not have a show?
Told. I mean, it's just straight on. I'm retired military, and I like straight shooting. It's no drama, just straight up, clear. And you're right. This is non-negotiable time, and never again let the left have their way. I just like the way you present, and it's all common sense, and it's just ordered and articulate. You got to have your own program.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And he was not paid for that endorsement, by the way.
No, absolutely not. Now, here's two pieces of really good news today. One, there was a rally I heard on the radio this morning in Philadelphia. It was a Biden, support Biden for presidency rally. 3 people showed up in the Capitol. And then the other good news, I read this on Fox 2 hours ago. There's Mr. Arroyo. He's Hispanic, Cuban descent, whatever. But he was doing a mall group interview where he's just talking to people in this big mall in New York. I think it was New York City. I'm not 100% sure, but it was New York. And half of the black citizens said they're voting for Trump.
Yeah.
Half. And it blew him away. And I'm going, well, if that's half in a blue state, in a blue city, my gosh, what is it for the rest of the country? Hope.
Yep.
So you're right. When you start off with the, let's not let a good crisis go to waste. We're channeling it because I think the people, since that debate, they saw it. And now all the cover-up is out. And so there's nothing the Democratic Party could ever say or do that I will believe a word of anything that they ever say or do. Nothing.
That's right.
And Barack Obama has been running everything.
Mm-hmm.
I've known it because somebody that's dementia, and I'm not trying to be cruel here, it's in the White House, and people knew for years he shouldn't be there or shouldn't even run, because somebody was running it. And the only guy that's the smarts to do it for all the wrong reasons, is Barack Obama.
And he's had the staff to do it. He was able to just bring his people with him down the street. And that's true. And it's obvious.
And there it is. There it is. That party needs to go away, totally go away. And the 51 people who were part of that big lie, the laptop and all, they need to go to prison. A lot of people need to go to jail.
That's right.
Accountability means consequences for fraud, libel, slander, all these things, and endangering the security of this country. The security of this country. I sent it this morning to the whatever line that is, text message, but there's an article. You can find it on Judicial Watch, They have pictures of military-aged men coming across the border in uniforms, rucksacks, everything.
Wow.
Well, file.
And it's been going on. And there's film and interviews. And Fox folks have been interviewing these folks coming across the border. And Gary, I want to encourage you. I interviewed on my show Tuesday here a gentleman named Steve Baker, and to the very issues that you just mentioned. Go back and listen to Tuesday's show, because here's a man with facts, a man who's been boots on the ground, and in the thick of it. You need to hear that. Everybody, every clear thinker needs to hear it. But at any rate, I'm sorry I'm up against a hard break, but I so appreciate your call and appreciate the stand that you're taking. And it's all true. So Des Dickerson, in for Matt Murphy, about to round it off today, but you can call in still. There's still time. 615-737-9986, 615-737-9986. We're going to take a break. We'll be back in just a few minutes.
Good afternoon. It is 2:30. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. We've got some sunshine. We're up to 90 degrees. Yeah, it's hot, but boy, is it going to get hotter. We've got a forecast coming up for you, and it's a steamy one. Vice President Kamala Harris on the campaign trail in North Carolina today. She was speaking at Dudley High School, which was founded back in 1929. It's the first black high school in the county there in North Carolina, where she did nothing but praise her boss, President Joe Biden.
The one thing we know about our president, Joe Biden, is that he is a fighter. He is a fighter.
President Biden's presumptive GOP opponent, former President Donald Trump, he's announced that he's going to be making a stop right here in Nashville this month when he makes an appearance during the Bitcoin 2024 conference that's taking place over at the Music City Center on, I believe it's July 25th through the 27th. Other names that are supposed to be there: Robert F. Kennedy Jr., another presidential candidate, along with Edward Snowden, Russell Brand, Vivek Ramaswamy, and Tennessee Senators Bill Hagerty and Marsha Blackburn. They're scheduled to be there, and there are a number of other folks scheduled to appear. That is the latest news. We've got a steamy hot weather forecast coming up for you. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Des Dickerson in with you today. One more day. Sitting in for Matt Murphy, who's about to sit in for Brian Wilson on the drive. I wanted to correct some misspeak, some misinformation that I shared earlier on in the show, that the Biden press conference was going to be at 4:30. It's actually 5:30 Central. 5:30 Central. So I don't want anybody to miss it because I gave you the wrong time. Also wanted to just go back and touch on real quickly a comment from our last caller. He was talking about a town hall shared somewhere in New York. He thought it was in New York City, but he didn't know for sure. And he commented on the fact that there was a large contingent of black voters in the audience who wholeheartedly and full-throatedly expressed their support for Donald Trump. And here's the thing, yes, that has happened and is continuing to happen and to gain momentum. And, it's not going to take, Donald Trump doesn't need, 30% or 40% of the black vote. He really, if he got 10%, that's a landslide. And that would overwhelmingly change the tide. So it's happening. That's another one of those areas where we got the opportunity. Every chance you get, let people know. So what I want to do before our next break, I shared Tuesday and I think on Monday these 5 PowerPoints that I referenced again earlier today. And I want to make sure that I revisit them before we're finished today. There are 5 PowerPoints that you can use to move the needle, specifically with respect to advocating Donald Trump and his candidacy. First, competency. The thing that was on display in that debate is a man who suffering cognitively, no doubt. But it was competence versus incompetence on display. And that's one of the things that has sent reeling folks on the left, folks in the cohort that just bought into the rope-a-dope, bought into the lie. And here's the thing. Yeah, you hate him. People on the left, you hate him. But he's a capable nemesis. That can't be denied. His competency cannot be denied. And I shared this sort of comparison the other day. I'm a staunch bleed purple Minnesota Viking fan. I was born and raised in Minnesota. And if you're a Viking fan, you hate the Packers. Nothing against Wisconsin. Well, maybe. But, man, first of all, I hated Brett Favre before that, till Brett came out on the field wearing purple. And then he was my man. But Aaron Rodgers, even through all those years where I hated Aaron Rodgers because he was our nemesis. But at the same time, I said openly, but dude can play. He was a baller. And at some point, he needs to be considered, if not the GOAT, he's certainly one of the GOATs. Aaron, well, had to recognize that he's a capable nemesis. Second PowerPoint, proven economic track record. The numbers from Trump's first term do not lie. And things like gas prices, food prices, rent, interest rate, everything, the basics. Yeah, there's some people paying $20 for a quarter pounder meal. Yes. But it wasn't that way. Look back at the numbers. It wasn't that way when Donald Trump was in office. He has a proven economic track record. Use the inflation comparison like a weapon in convincing people, or at least impacting people, striking their thinking. Come on, this is a man with a proven economic track record. Look at where you are now versus where you were 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago. The next PowerPoint is international thugs fear Donald Trump. Nobody fears Joe Biden. Folks are laughing madly at Joe Biden. None of those thugs take Biden seriously. But I tell you what, none of them dare to sleep on Donald Trump. They did it when he was in office. And when he's in office again, you just watch things change. And already you can see that there's some people that are positioning themselves for that eventuality. Well, he may be back again, so we better get ready. The international thugs fear him. Next, what do you have to lose? People of the left, what do you have to lose? And that's one of the things last go around that Donald Trump directly challenged black voters with. Look, what do you have to lose? Yeah, you have, your narrative has been Democrats are our friends, Republicans are our enemies. Well, but wait a minute. What do you have to lose, really? Because black unemployment plummeted, black prosperity rose when Trump was in office, as did Hispanic prosperity, Asian prosperity. The rising tide lifted ships, what I talked about earlier. It was happening with Trump in office. So to those of you of the cohort, look, you threw in with the biggest loser of all time last time. You did. And a lot of you after the debate realized, well, wait a minute. Did we get this wrong? Well, yeah, you got it wrong. So do you honestly think that Donald Trump could be worse than what you have suffered over the course of the last 3.5+ years? Come on. What do you have to lose? What do you have to lose? And I don't care who else they try to throw in there. I don't care what other Buick they try to pull in your parking lot. That's not the problem. We talked about that already. Their problem is brand and brand value. And another Buick's not going to change that. And finally, true ugly brings into perspective mere differences. And I didn't like his tone, and the tweets were mean, and he said things that were offensive. Look, I don't know about you. I'm not out to elect, the pastor of the United States or any of that stuff. And when you look at the reality of the effectiveness of the man, true ugly brings into perspective mere differences. Yeah, there are differences. But where did that get you, Biden supporters? Oh, he's much more presidential. Really? See, you foolishly talked yourself into the Biden beauty contest before, and you got rope-a-doped. You got rope-a-doped into a hotel, motel, Holiday Inn with the house lights low, and it was the worst closing time decision of all time. Because when the lights came up, oh my goodness. So the debate was the lights coming up at closing time. So what are you going to do? Because there's perspective now. Yeah, there are differences. But the perspective here is that true ugly, and this has been ugly and is getting uglier, brings into perspective, look, these were differences, but not consequential differences and not even actual differences. It was all stuff, words. What was it Obama said? Just words, just speeches. Well, yeah, a lot of people fell for that. It's closing time. It's closing time. So those are the 5 PowerPoints. And I've had some folks contact on Des Dickerson is based. Don't forget, on Facebook, Des Dickerson is based. Des Dickerson is biased. But come, join us, follow, become part of that cohort. Clear thinkers, come on over. Let's keep that dialogue going, and let's encourage one another. Let's activate these 5 PowerPoints. Let's get up, stand up, speak up. Let's do what we got to do. So we're going to take one more break before we bring things to a close today. And if we have time, there's just one article I'm going to share real quick with respect to another point that an earlier caller represented about just one of the many actual issues, the flood across the border. And it's more than just humanity. It's more than just people. There is a purposeful, there's advantage being taken with, there's a doggy door where we used to have a border. We'll talk about that if we have time. But it's Des Dickerson on Super Talk 99.7 WTN, finishing up my last day sitting in for Matt Murphy, and we're going to be right back.
What the dog doing?
Oh, yeah, my Minneapolis homeboys, Semisonic. It's closing time. All you Biden
What the
voters,
dog doing?
What the dog? All you Biden voters out there, it's closing time. Lights have come up. So I touched earlier in the show on the fact that for me, one of my major concerns as we focus on our priority of getting Donald Trump back in the Oval Office, one of my greatest concerns remains election integrity. So here's an article from Blaze Media, and it underscores this. Here's our, we're going to end the day with a reality check. Headline, 10% of illegal aliens admit they are registered to vote. Blue states, thank you. And that's a Heritage Foundation survey. Think about this. So, investigation uncovers this threat to election integrity. A survey conducted by the Heritage Foundation's Oversight Project found that 10% of illegal aliens and non-citizens stated that they are registered to vote in the upcoming election. Well, that's illegal. That's not, well, there you go. In a video posted on X on the 4th of July, Mike Howell, the Oversight Project's executive director, stated, "My fellow Americans, today we are calling on all of you," and that's right in line with where we are, calling on all of you to declare independence from foreigners deciding our elections. Because that's what the left wants. Why do you turn the border into a doggy door? Well, there's why. The evidence you are about to see relates to illegal aliens being registered to vote. This is a problem national in scale. The United States of America is for Americans. And our elections should only be decided by them.
Mischievous and deceitful, chicanerous and deplorable.
Amen. But it's real, people. This is not Mr. Garvey. This is real. See, if this proportion holds true nationwide, the integrity of the 2024 election is in jeopardy. So muckraker.com reported that it interviewed dozens of individuals residing in Charlotte, North Carolina, in an apartment complex, specifically primarily occupied by illegal aliens. A hidden camera captured several interviews with residents who claimed to be non-citizens who had also registered to vote. Again, well, that's it. Dude, it's real. So we come with a group, an organization that is trying to help register Hispanic people to vote. Because in a few months, they will be voting for governor or for president. Anthony Rubin, the founder of Muckraker, explained, "We visited the apartment complex to ask residents 2 questions. Are you registered to vote and are you a citizen?" Shockingly, 4 of the 41 people that they asked confirmed that they were non-citizen and registered to vote. If this proportion holds true, again, nationwide, then the integrity of the 2024 election is in jeopardy. There you go, people. That's why I'm concerned about it, and you should be too. Well, again, our time has just flown by. It's been so great to be with you. I appreciate the opportunity to sit in this chair and sit in front of this microphone to fill in for Matt, who's going to be filling in for Brian here soon. But I love it. I love you. We'll see you again next time